Hello again, ready for part two of my story. Those that listen, thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. Didn't think I'd get as many hits and as many listeners to the first one. That being said, I didn't really expect much for this one. Anyways, but if you do listen, I appreciate it, and I thank you very much for your support and your love. So yeah, can't really complain, can't really argue about it. I mean, it's nothing bad, it's all good. So it just goes to show that people actually do want to know a little bit about the artist, not just who they are as they see them on stage or behind the decks. I mean, there's always more to a person than what you perceive them, what their public persona is, shall we say. So yeah, so in the first one, basically just gave you a rundown as to the origins of my DJing, why I wanted to DJ, get into production, how I got into dance music, and all those sorts of things. And I believe we left off where I just bought my first decks, Pioneer 300S mixer, and the 100S CDJs, the silver CD players, 2-channel mixer. It was mad because you had a BPM counter on the mixer itself on the master channel that was playing. It was revolutionary at the time. Now you've got Record Box and Serato, which tells you every track's BPM, cues, keys, breaks, everything you could ask for in track analyzation, if that's even a word. It's all listed, but back then you didn't. You still had to use your ears. I mean, a lot of vinyl was still into it, so people were still buying vinyls. I believe One Stop was still around. One Stop Records, I think it was called. Central Station was still in operation. CD stores were still there. I don't think you could buy vinyls from there, but definitely CD stores were still in place because I worked in a music store as well. And I remember they used to have a dance arena in Hurstville, Westfield. And it was like a little offshoot of Sanity. And they used to sell DJ equipment there, dance music, specifically focusing on dance music. And I remember, this is where the story continues, once I did turn 18 or 17, thereabouts I think it was, year 12, getting into DJing, befriended the person by the name of DJ Aja, which I mentioned in the last one, Macedonian fella, DJ playing at under 18s. That's what sort of raised my eyebrow to the whole DJing thing. Like, I didn't know, Massos like myself could be DJs, so evidently they could, so they were. And that's where Ajay come into it, and he was working there. And I remember that's where I bought Kickin' Hard Volume 5, Alex K's Kickin' Hard Volume 5. It was the cover with the Ryu lookalike, Street Fighter Ryu lookalike, 2 CD, banging mix, still got it, still love it. I think Alex ended up signing him for me when he came to the music store when I was working there in 2008, 2009, thereabouts. But it was a good time. That's where you could buy lots of DJ equipment. I know the oldies will be reminiscing about these places like Sanity. I know KCB goes on about CD players these days because there is nothing like going to an actual CD record shop and looking through the various CDs, vinyls, albums, etc., singles. You could just listen to them on end. You purchase 10, 15 CDs every week, and you had the latest hits at the time. Nowadays, you stream it off your phone, you download it off Beatport or Juno, YouTube, Deezer, whatever it is. Like, literally, everything is on this device right here if you really wanted to play music. But back then, there were simpler times in the mid-2000s. Good times indeed. So anyways, enough waffling. Ajay used to work there, and I remember when I was in year 12, you start doing gigs for people around your school, your classmates. You play for next to nothing, peanuts, for parties, just to get yourself out there, just so you can say like, yeah, I'm the DJ, I'm the cool kid, etc. And they were good times. Play a few birthday parties for your friends. You're basically charging them $150 for 5-6 hours. Barely even covered the equipment hire at the time. I remember didn't really make that much money for the first few gigs, but then again, you try and make do with what you've got. Plug in hi-fi stereos, home systems, anything you could think of. Yep, throw them all together. Anyways, so I remember during music school, I needed to get some lighting for school performance, and I remember calling Adja at the time. I said, look, I need some lighting. Can you help me out? And he referred me to a fella by the name of Peter Fly, who was a local, 10 minutes down the road where I used to be in Hoxton Park. And I befriended Peter Fly. And, I have a lot to thank him for in my DJing career, introducing me to a lot of people, helping me with music, with my collection, also teaching me how to DJ, how to set up and pack up AV, just general production procedures when it comes to DJing, because, of course, some DJs, if they're club performers, they just rock up on site to the gig. Venue's already set with their equipment, and they just plug it in and plug in their USBs and off they go. But back then, you still had to carry CD players. You still had to carry records sometimes. You had to bring in a good few folders. That's when the Technics bags were in, those Technics bags with the trolleys. I think some people still use them. I think Polly still uses his Technics bag, and he says, all I have in here is a couple of USBs and headphones. I have no idea why I carry my Technics bag, but it looks cool, man. It's one of those things that just reminds you of better days. I used to pull vinyls in and some CD folders and things like that. But Peter Fly helped me a lot, so forever indebted to Peter. I do owe him a lot when it comes to my DJing career, but more notably with Peter, it was him getting me on radio that really helped me. He was running 2 radio shows at the time on 89.3 FM, which was out in Liverpool. And that was On The Decks. So a lot of people listening will know On The Decks. They used to play trance on... it started initially through Errol G, I think in the early 2000s, maybe late 90s, early 2000s, if I'm not mistaken. And basically throughout the years, hosts came and went. It was Errol G, it was Danny, it was Peter, it was Drake's, and there was a few others that came and went. And the Tuesday show was primarily trance. It was 4 to 6 p.m, 89.3 FM, every Tuesday and Friday afternoon from 4 to 6. And I started tagging along, just started hanging out, having a few mixes, because it used to be live mixing. And Peter used to play trance, and he couldn't do the Friday shows anymore at one point. I think it was about 2005, 2006. I think it was 2006. It would have been a year since I was in there before I could actually start DJing in nightclubs. So 2006 says to me, I can't do Fridays anymore. Do you want to take over the Friday show? You can rebrand it, call it whatever you want, and you can play Energy if you want. I said, sure thing. I jumped at the idea. Took that on board and basically renamed that Friday block that was between 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. as Club Nation, and literally just played Energy. Old school, new school, whatever. We even went through a period where we played Happy Hardcore at one point, because that was in at the time. Used to play Happy Hardcore at under 18s, and just to divert a little bit, under 18s at the time, when they were still around, when they were still a thing, where you had Creamy under 18s out in Penrith. It was one of my first proper under 18s gigs. There was also Chill under 18s. I know a lot of people in their late 20s, early 30s remember Chill. They used to be at Marconi. I think it was also at King Tom at one point. So there were a few under 18s about. There used to be Crush at Sega World, Equinox, all these others. And they were good times for a lot of us. And I got into under 18s through Peter. He was doing production and promotions, and with that came going to schools and handing out flyers to the kids and putting poll posters up in stupid hours of the evening and doing all that stuff. I mean, you look back now and you think to yourself, why the hell did I do all that? But really, when you think about it, it was all a learning experience. It was all a learning experience. It was all to give you a good idea as to what goes on when it comes to hosting events and running events and doing all those things, because there's a lot of work that goes on in the background. It doesn't just happen magically. Now, people work endlessly to make things happen. So for those people that bag out events and, this could have been done better, that could have been done better, this is crap, blah, 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 cut the people a bit of slack. If you can do better, by all means, run yourself an event. See how it is. But to go back to the main point, through Peter, started doing the under 18s, which was all good and well, but then did the radio show, and with the radio show, then started coming gigs. And I remember when I first turned 18, Adja and Steve Play, when they were still playing Energy at the time. Steve was also playing house at this point in 2006. They were playing at a place out in Penrith which has been renamed and rebranded and knocked down and rebuilt too many times to care. At the time, I think it was called... What was it called now? I just had the word in my mind now. I can't think about it. I can't remember what it was called now. Holy crap. The Vault? Was it called The Vault? I can't remember. It was in Penrith. It was on High Street, and it's been chopped and changed that many times now. I can't remember what it was called, but 2006, first weekend of June, that's when they played there. So I went there, and that was my first time going in a nightclub. Interesting experience. And then straight after that, we ended up going to UN, and that's when I really was exposed. I think I mentioned it in the last pod how my first visit to UN went, but if I didn't, it was everything I expected it to be. Walking up those stairs, hearing the bass reverberate, the room resonating, you could hear people chit-chatting, lady check coat register at the halfway mark of the stairs, the house room on the left, the red room on the right, people chilling out. I think it was about 1 or 2 a.m. when we went, and you just walk into the main room, it was just like magic. That's all I can explain. It was like magic. So that was my first visit to UN at that time. And then after that, I got into my first actual club gig DJing. Was at Veranda Bar. Veranda Bar for Gelato. If I know a lot of people, if they're listening out here, if they're in their 30s and pushing 40s now, definitely will remember the Veranda Bar days. I mean, this is when Gelato was on Saturdays. On Fridays, it was... what was it called? I forget what the Friday gig was, but it was at Universale in Leichhardt. That's what this one was. And there was a few others around the place as well. So it was a few different things here and there. And that was my my first big club gig. I think that was in July 2006. So I was 18. I think it was 1 month into being 18. That was my first gig. So that was a bit of fun there. And it happened to be the same night that Temple of Dance 2 was on. Temple of Dance 2 at UN at the time, so Sunset Brothers absolutely rocking it. So massive turnouts in both venues. Veranda Bar, if you've been there, you know it's not the greatest. It's not the biggest place, doesn't have the greatest amount of room, but it was jam-packed. And Veranda Bar had 2 rooms as well. You had like a main room and a back room where the restaurant side was, because it was a bar during the day and a nightclub at night. And in the back, they'd end up playing Energy most of the time, and on the in the front room they'd end up playing like house, or they have Energy in both rooms, and like, you know, the newbies would be in the back room like myself, and then the main stages would be on the decks in the main room. So that was a bit of fun during that period there. And didn't really get much gigs there. I had a few, used to play a couple of times, had a few gigs there, but what really got me going was playing for Milosh, who used to run CP, Club Parada, and also used to do Wallaby, Pontoon, and some other places like that. I think Home Nightclub as well, Home Bar, a lot of places like that. And I gained residency on Saturday nights between 9 and 12, playing house music at the Greg Adams Bar, right next to the Hilton Hotel on George Street. So for a good maybe not 6 months, maybe 3 to 4 months, I was there non-stop playing house music, 3 hours worth, just, you know, the electro funky stuff of the time, 2006, whatever was around back then. I think we're looking at, you know, Eric Pridge's Call on Me, what else was there, Funk Shaker, Love Generation. These were the big hits at the time, so you're playing that sort of stuff. And it was a good learning experience. Used to rock up there, CD players in my CD folder, on you go, play for 3 hours. And then I used to walk from Greg Adams Bar down to Wallaby Bar, down Darling Harbour, upstairs from where Pontoon is. I'm not sure if it's still around these days anymore, but I did play there for a while, so I used to play there for an hour. So I think it was like 1 till 2, and then from 2 a.m. I would walk to DCM or UN Sydney, and I would just go there and enjoy the tunes until the early hours, until I could catch a train back home to my grandparents' house if I didn't want to catch a night ride, because screw that shit, man. I mean, night rides were a pain in the ass. You get all sorts on the night ride, and you're constantly starting and stopping, and people have no idea where they're going, and everyone's chit-chattering, everyone's drunk, you get weirdos on there. So it was just better just to wait and just enjoy the tunes and catch a train after. Just walk up to town hall and see you later. Good times. Very good times. Not even town hall, St. James, was it? Used to go St. James, sorry. St. James Station. So that's what we used to do there. And for a period of time, that was basically my residency. And that was what I was doing. And apart from that, I was also doing private parties, doing a lot of private gigs. I started to get better. Production got better. Started using better equipment. Started charging accordingly. So I was starting to make a little bit of money, which was nice. And playing at a lot of under 18s as well. So Chill was primarily the place where I ended up playing, and it took me a while before I got actual residency at Chill, which used to be held at Club Marconi, because I would go there and help set up and do all those sorts of things and promote, and just you had to prove yourself back then. There was no, well, we know you can DJ, we know you can play, but we're not going to throw you in straight away. You actually had to show you had some worth, that there was some value towards you. So I had to do that a fair bit, and got through it okay. And thanks to Peter and Rob Runco of Showtime Promotions for giving me that chance and helping me on. And yeah, can't complain. It was good times back then. And if you did go to a Chill under 18s between 2006 and probably 2010, 2011, you probably caught me playing there. So yeah, thanks for rocking out to the tunes. So the under 18s were a big thing. Yeah, used to have under 18s back then. Nowadays, you don't get anything. I think the last time I saw something remotely similar to a big under 18s or some sort of dance party was something at, I think it was at the Fairfield Markets. I think they had something there a while ago. I can't remember for sure exactly where or when it was, but I do remember that there was something that was going on then. So in any case, so you start playing, and then you're shifted around to different clubs. And I remember that there were still moments where I would play in King's Cross. I'd play at Sapphire, played there a couple of times. I ended up playing at Space Nightclub for Heaven, which was run by Mel C at the time, and Benino G and Blinky, who at the time were known as Outsource, and now Benino G is Outsource. So the Outsource DJ that you see all over the place, that plays at Pure Energy and other places like that, very same Outsource. So Benino G, shout out to you, good sir. And they had me resident there, playing every Saturday. I used to play play some house tunes at the start. He'd jump on, play some Energy, and then we would play some Energy again and finish the night off. So good times. And that's where DJ Sabio got his start as well. So shout out to Sabio, who's now rocking it at the Port Friday nights there. Also had a bit of a residency at Marquee, and I think he actually played overseas in Marquee as well. Was it Vegas or was it in Asia somewhere? I can't remember, but I think it was Marquee, Singapore. So Sabio, man, it's come a long way. So nice to see that a lot of us have had our moments in the limelight, or some are taking full advantage of it now. So it's good to see that we've gone around. And of course, Outsource has DJ'd with and alongside DJ Sammy, Bass Hunter, and other big DJs like that. So a lot of us have come from somewhere to become something, which is nice. It's a nice little underdog story. So that was my period there, alongside Tonka. Used to play there, and between 2006 and 2008, 2009, that's when I sort of really started pushing radio hard. I used to promote energy events on radio on Friday afternoons. I used to pester George Mihailovsky, who used to run the promotions at UN at the time, alongside not George David Freeman, my apologies, when he was running DCM. So my bad, George, if you ever listen to this, sorry for doing your head in, man, but I think it was well worth it. Took a chance. I used to pester him, Masso as well. I used to tell him, look, man, I got a radio show, I can get people listening, I can give away tickets, whatever. I just wanted to get involved, man. I just wanted to get involved. And of course, you want to DJ there. That was like the thing. You want to play at UN. Like, okay, it's not DCM, but you want to play at UN. And I think at this point, I don't know if Rogues was closed or it was on the verge of closing. Everything else had closed down in Oxford Street. The only thing that was still operating was down in Liverpool Street, and that was Heaven at Space. But it wasn't really an energy club. And sometimes they play Energy in that first room when the elevators opened up and you just walk straight onto the dance floor, and sometimes they play it in the main room in the back there. I think they've got massive Saturdays now at Space. They play Hardstyle there, or Shark Bar, whatever the hell it's called. I don't know. Too many changes of clubs names. But anyways, that was the main bit there. So that was that heaven period, and then you befriend the people that play at these clubs, and that's where you start to befriend the likes of Sunset Brothers, Adriano and Wills. Because at this point, Alex K was still overseas. He didn't come back until 2007, so I didn't really meet him until he arrived in 2007 the following year. So through DJ Aja, through Peter Fly and all these other DJs who I associated with, that's where you get the likes. So you get to know the likes of Wills, Adriano, DK1. I think I met Stevie B, Charlie Brown. I probably had said hi to, but had no idea it was ever going to turn out like this. Who else was there? Who else used to meet at the time? Steve S was playing there still. Mickey D, Rada, he was still rocking UN, playing late sets, banging old school tunes. So it was a good period of DJs back there, and a lot of these guys have progressed now. Obviously, Rada's making his own music and he's doing his own thing. Playing almost as a headliner at Decadence and other Energy events, coming from someone who used to play closing sets at UN, which I played closing sets at Havana once the DCM brand had closed at UN and moved up the road on Oxford Street to Havana. That was me playing 3-4 a.m. closing sets, or play the opening 12 a.m. Energy sets before Alex and Sunset Brothers. So they were fun times. At least I can say I got that under my belt. That was good. But the real standout for me was 2007 at UN. They started doing a competition called DJ Idol, very similar to obviously American Idol, Australian Idol, whatever. And that is where the DJs would go and audition. So you actually had to register. You had to send a mix CD, a demo CD, because you couldn't burn them on USBs and MP3s. That wasn't the thing at the time. It was all CD. So made a mix CD, sent it in. It was good enough, qualified, and then they brought you in stages. I think they took in 10 finalists, and they narrowed it down to 5 people, something to that effect. And I went down there. That's where I met Andre J face to face. Steve Play was there at the time, and shout out to Andre. He listened to the previous one, so I got to shout him out on this one here. There is one more thing I need to mention with Andre as well soon, which adds to the whole elements of the whole energy scene and DJing and things like that. And basically, these other guys were there to judge the contestants on their mixing ability. So it was Wills, Steve Play. I'm pretty sure Tass was there. Tass Diakos, good old DJ Tass, he was there as well. And I got up there, and someone was playing Brooklyn Bounce, Let the Music Play, and I mixed into that Sunset Brothers mix of Proper Education. It was smooth, it was flawless, it was very good, and the boys were impressed. I mean, think about it, I'm a 18, 19-year-old, skinny nobody. I mean, this was my bicep at the time, my bicep's a bit bigger now, but, it was a twig, had a mullet and everything, like, no facial hair. Looked like the biggest dweeb, but they saw something in me, and they put me on. And a couple of weeks later, I played the 12 o'clock opening set at DJ Idol, and I think they had 2 or 3 DJ Idol events. I had the first one, and I think Eric was there as well, because they had house DJs too. So Eric, who's now in Melbourne, big shouting out to Eric, killing it with the techno, with the tech trance down there. Fuck, the scene in Melbourne is just ridiculous, man. Like, music you never thought would actually fly anywhere is actually banging in Melbourne. So, shout out to Eric G, absolutely killing it. I know he was there at one point. I think we also had Danny P played at DJ Idol. Wrath, Chris Soro, shout out to you, good sir. Robbie C, Kiri, I think Scuba Stew was there. Andre J, of course. We also had Drake's playing. Man, I'm trying to think now. This is going way back when. So many DJs at the time, a lot who have stopped DJing. Some are still playing now, but a lot have just up and gone. Just do not care for it much these days. It's a shame though, because it's a good thing to do. I mean, when you got the likes of Cadell, Charlie, who else is playing? All these other DJs who are like, late 30s, early 40s, even older, still killing it. I mean, Chris Creator, smashing it. Resident at what, Establishment, Ivy or something, where the hell he's playing. He's absolutely killing it. So, DJing, you can never be told for. I mean, look at DJ Sue. I think her name's DJ Sue, cranking gangster rap in Brisbane or wherever the hell it was. Started as a hobby, now she's mad famous now. And she knows what she's doing, mate. You're never too old to be a DJ. And if you got the skill, you just keep on going. You have that much experience and you just keep on going with it, man. The experience you gain from it, it becomes priceless. You cannot buy that. You can learn how to mix, you can learn how to beat match, but the general experience of just DJing overall, it's just something that you don't get anywhere else. No matter how often you practice, it just comes with the years. And I mean, if you look at KCB, shout out to KCB. The guy does everything. He does music production, he does radio production, he does mix CDs, he does mega mixes, he does voiceover work, he does film and TV. I mean, KCB is an absolute machine. Shout out to KCB. Love that bloke. Absolutely killing it with everything he does. But he's got the experience in everything he does, which is why everything he does is beautiful. It's beautiful, Casey. Beautiful. That's what it is. So he met all these DJs at DJ Idol and absolutely killed it, smashed it. Couldn't have been happier with my set. Absolutely loved it. And they loved me so much that they brought me on board to play a couple more times at UN, playing opening set Energy at 12 a.m. Bit nerve-wracking. It's like, who the hell is this nobody DJ playing at 12 a.m. at UN in 2007? Like, what is this? But it went well. It was just beauty. It was cracker. The whole thing was mad, and those moments you never forget. So that was the start of my proper energy career, shall we say? Because after that, Heaven at Space stopped. The Veranda Bar days stopped there. And there was a weird period with clubbing in those mid to late 2000s. That's really where, if anyone remembers, the licensing issue came about with music. I think APRA had some dramas, or someone or something with entertainment in Australia had some complaints as to royalties, or you had to pay for the music if you wanted to play it and things like that. All the DJs with all the music they play, and I just remember it just became this massive thing of like, these people cannot be serious. You cannot expect DJs to have all this music. And buying music wasn't as popular and readily available as it is now. I mean, this is 2007, 2008 we're talking about. So very different times back then. Was not easy at all. And eventually that phased out. Nothing happened there. But I think a lot of events and venues just said, you know what, we just had enough, had a good run, and shut up shop. But DCM kept on going up the road at Havana. It was too good, man. It was too damn good. And of course, between all that, we had Alex K's return, Temple of Dance 3, some other big events that were there. I think a few Kickin' Hards were released. I know Dave Austin and Captain Kirk did one, Kickin' Hard 9, then they had a 10. A DCM CD was launched in between that in 2007, 2008, I believe. Then there was a Dinky Anthem CD. So a lot of things went on during that period, that come to think of it now. And a lot of them centered around UN or DCM. And once it moved to Havana, that's when I properly gained residency, shall we say. I played the opening set, as I said. Then Alex would jump on after me, or Alex would play, then I would play, then it'd be Sunset Brothers or whatever. And it's, you know, you don't forget where you came from, it's what I'm saying. I mean, some maybe do, some maybe it's all gone Pete Tong for him, but I never forget where I started from, and I'll always be thankful for all that, from all the people that helped me out, from Adja from the early days, from Peter Fly, from George Mihailovsky putting me on at Havana, a lot of people throughout my DJing career who've really helped me out, the promoters who've given me a chance, and all these others. And it's nice to see that there's still, well, at the time at least, there was a little bit of belief in the newcomers. And yeah, granted, I'm 32 years old now. I've been doing this since 2006 as an adult. I'm not a newcomer anymore, and yet sometimes you still feel like a newcomer, that people don't want to give you a chance or give you a go. But I guess you get that with everything these days. The industry can be a cruel mistress, as it were. But it's business at the end of the day. It is what it is. I mean, the talent will show itself. The application will come through. People will see what is available out there, and hopefully it all prevails and it works well. And I've just noticed I've hit the 30-minute mark, and there's still a lot more to go between 2009, 10 till today. But I think effectively that pretty much sums up the start of my DJing career when it comes to club or under 18s clubs, to the nightclub scene with energy. And of course, in between all that, there was always private parties. Did a lot of private gigs, 21st, 16th, weddings, christenings, things like that. And I still do every now and again. I still do the odd party. Nothing wrong with that. But when you have residencies, you do tend to keep to them because you're a regular. People expect to see you there. Obviously, there's the odd occasion when you can't make it that you'll tell them with time in advance, and they'll substitute. They'll find someone else. They'll fill in or whatever they need to do. So it's not all bad. Those people that I work with, I have no qualms about it. Today, in today's day and age, where people have such short attention spans, it's nice to see that there are still some people out there that look at the long-term vision. And Charlie Brown, forever indebted to him. Dave Austin got me out of the hole. I think that'll be the next thing I speak about. I thought there was only going to be a part 2. There will be a part 3 in that case. There will be a part 3 where I'll talk about my where I really got into production, because I played you my first proper track in the last one. I won't play a track in this one. I'll spare you that. You can thank me later. But I will discuss how I got into production, what happened in between all that once the energy events sort of like fizzled out for me, what I did in the meantime there. I was still DJing consistently, but it wasn't energy. I was playing at Balkan WOG events at Evropa Super Club from 2009 till 2014, 15, thereabouts. And that's when the basically hang up the headphones moment came for me during that period. I didn't retire. I never said I was going to stop DJing, but the nightclubs and things like that, there was a period there where I thought, is it all worth it? Why do I keep bothering with this? Why do I do this? So that'll be the next one. That'll be part 3 in all this. So hopefully I haven't bored you too much. Hopefully you have enjoyed this little monologue of mine. Hopefully you've learned a little bit about my background and my DJing history and where I've come from and who I've worked with and the people who I'm thankful for. Because I said, you never forget where you came from. That's one thing I will say to anyone listening out there who wants to get in on this, or if they've got their own craft that they've developed skills over the years and they've started from somewhere. Don't forget where you came from, because you never know when you're going to meet those people again, and you never know when those people are going to cross paths with you, and you never know, you might be bigger than them one day. And I guess everyone's just trying to help everyone out. And those that want to help will help. Those that don't want to help, well, you want to work with people. You want to work together with them. You don't want to be their enemies. And sometimes inadvertently, they become your competition. And I think we should all really work together instead of work against each other. But those are my 2 cents. Again, this was part 2. Hopefully you have enjoyed. There will be a part 3 in the next week or 2. So I'll give you a couple of weeks to recover from this one here. And yeah, and throughout this whole time, hopefully everyone is safe. Everyone is well. And if you are going to party safe. And don't do anything that I wouldn't do.